Hi everyone, thanks for checking in. SITKA Jazz Week here. My name is Christian Fabian. I guess you can call me the founder and director. We are in our fourth year, SITKA Jazz Week, naturally happening at the end of the summer, last week of August. This year we're a little earlier. We are August 23rd to August 30th in Sitka, Alaska. And I have some guests with me here. We have a very large faculty. And I want to let you know that SITKA Jazz Week is a performance-oriented workshop. What that means for us is that we start performing from day number one. And traditionally, most workshops, you go there as a participant and you take classes and lectures throughout the day, throughout the week, maybe throughout 2 weeks. And then you see the instructors play, the teachers play. And then at the end of that period of time you've spent, then there is usually a performance for the participant. So, which can be a great thing. However, everyone is composed a little different. Sometimes this one performance can also have a lot of pressure on the participant because after all this greatness, now they're like, oh my God, I have to perform great too. And you know, what happens if that performance doesn't really go that well? So it can be, most of the time it's, of course, I guess, a very positive experience, but what happens if this is not a great experience? Then what I've seen, that some of the participants, they make the decision if they want to do more music or make music a priority in their life. They base their decision on this one performance, or maybe there were several performances like that. So to counteract that, pretty much what we're doing with SITKA Jazz Week, we start the other way around. We start performing from day number one, and we really embrace as many mistakes as possible, being uncomfortable. I just recently heard a great quote from a great martial arts fighter, Bruce Lee. I don't know if you heard about him. In the 70s, he did a lot of great movies. But he said, most people in life, they're looking for comfort. But it's really the discomfort which makes you grow. And I thought about it, like there's a lot of truth to it. You know, life is never really perfect, but in our mind, we're always looking for this perfect situation. As a musician, and these two fellow instructors, mentors, and amazing musicians you will hear today too, you know, when we perform live, it's not always a perfect performance environment. So we embrace this not perfect performance environment as a musician, and maybe also the surrounding. It could be some distractions, and but we start from day number one, and then the participant can perform on Monday twice if they want to. You know, we recommend usually you prepare a song or two, or a couple, but at least one song. Bring it to SITKA Jazz Week, and then you could perform it twice on Monday, twice on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we will have every day we have a talk back, and at that talk back you will bring up what happened and how can we improve. And, you know, collectively, we have so many mentors and teachers and experienced musicians at Jazz Week. I think we covered probably every plunder which ever happened on stage. You know, everyone had other things happen, and we always have some advice for you how you can counteract that. And I'm bringing up an example which happened last year. A young gentleman, we just had an earlier Zoom call today. His name was Jack. He was and is a bass player. So he was starting to perform last year on a Monday, and he said he was really overwhelmed. He was kind of in shock. He didn't really practice as much as he wanted to over the summer. And then by Tuesday afternoon, what happened throughout Monday and Tuesday, he just played, and then he started remembering songs from the previous school year. And by Tuesday, he was beaming. And he's like, man, I played 3 songs and it was great. I had a great experience, and the Jazz Week just started. So there was still another couple of, at least 3 or 4 more days to go. And so that's what usually, that's just one example. But we have seen a couple of examples like that where people really excel early on in the week. And then can, if something happened, they can improve it and do it over again. So this is pretty much what Jazz Week is all about. And again, we will be having Jazz Week this year, August 23rd to the 30th. And it's really a all ages workshop. And for everyone, in my case, I'm really interested of um, the energy of how much someone wants to learn. That's what I'm looking for. I don't care if that person is 8 years or 9 years old, or if they're 15, or if they're in their 20s, in their 30s, or if they're in their 70s. It's just really, I think when it comes to learning, we can learn at any time in our life. We just want to forget. When you really learn, you forget that you're hungry, you forget how old you are, you forget if it's raining outside. You really want to have that attention span to really delve in there. And that's why a lot of times they say, oh, you only learn when you're a baby. The reason you learn when you're a baby or younger, you don't think. When you come older, we think about other things, and it is distracting from the learning process. But if you could bypass that, then you learn as fast as a baby. However, so that's so much about SITKA Jazz Week. We have starting out with two good friends, but one I know for a long time is my fellow bass player friend, Chazz Gist. He's out of Ketchikan. I've seen Chazz since, I think, high school. Then you went to Fairbanks. You studied there. And then you were coming back to SITKA, not SITKA, sorry, Ketchikan. And you started a band with our good friend Austin Hayes. And you had an amazing band. And what really, I said it many times, and if some of you never heard it before, the great thing about talking about devoting yourself to music, what I always felt and what I thought, especially when you came back after your Fairbanks experience, back to Ketchikan, you and Austin, you just started, at least for that one trio, which back then was Austin Trio, and then you became the Gateway Trio. But you really were into the music. You really had arrangements. You were practicing every week. You were really what I just described, and I liked that. And I thought, I saw you grow, and the trio, it sounded great, and you were part of SITKA Jazz Week in 2023 and 2024. Mm-hmm. And anyway, you're part of Jazz Week, just like Cleve and who else? And Bernard Purdy, we had him on the Zoom call yesterday, and his wife Celia. You're really there from the beginning on. Anyway, give it up to you and introduce yourself. I know you do a lot of other things. You're playing all over Alaska. You're branching out, playing in the United States, and I know probably have some international travel coming up. But you're also there as a mentor and instructor, and you're one of the rhythm sections. So take it away, Chazz. So happy you're here. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Chazz Gist. Christian said, fellow bass player, upright and electric bass. It's nice having more than one bass player as faculty at something like this, because we're setting up all these different venues, and we need kind of a rhythm section at each venue. So that's kind of bass players are the limiting factor much of the time. And so being able to kind of share the load, do workshops sometimes, and okay, this time Chazz takes the bass workshop, Christian runs off. This time Christian helps out here, Chazz runs off, or sets up the next venue, or whatever it is. And we had a few bass students this last. We had like 3 or 4 bass kids in there, and so I love being able to talk with a bunch of bass players. Most of the time, in Southeast Alaska, we're pretty spread out communities, and I'm used to being the only bass player within like a couple hundred miles. So it's nice to get together and just share wisdom. And I was helping people set up their basses too, things like that, because other people are also in the same boat, and there's no other bass players at school, for instance, then, you can look at their bass and, oh, we need to lower the action here. Oh, we need to move your sound post around. Oh, we need to move your bridge around. Right. And so that aspect has been fun. I travel around Alaska quite a bit, and just a bass player for hire, and so I'll do recordings, but most of the time it's just performance. But we have a big album coming out in April, Taylor Viddick's album. There's a jazz singer from Juneau that I've been working with for many years, and so we're really excited about that. But SITKA Jazz Week is, as Christian says, just a really hands-on performance practice experience, because you're practicing performing every day. You're not just hyping yourself up for one thing at the end of the week that could go well or not. We have workshops in the morning, and you have like your little warm up that you always do in the morning. You have these little rhythm exercises. We have breakfast, have all these different themed workshops with the different guest speakers from New York and from all around the world, and then we have lunch and we head off into the various jams where we set up the 3 to 4 different venues, and the students rather, because again it's all ages. We definitely did have some people in their 70s.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to guess how old they were. But it's being able for a given camper to go to multiple different venues and perform their material is just invaluable. And you just don't really get that elsewhere. I can't think of any kind of situation where you have something like that. That's where you can also look back on it with the talkback section, and you can really analyze what happened every day and build on it. And because it's practicing performance itself, which is more than just the song that you're working on, you know. I don't know. It is a good concept.
No, thanks, Chazz. And also, we both went to a Victor Wooten camp, and I have to tell you that, and that was early 2014, I think we went together.
Would have been 14, yep.
Yeah. And so the whole idea, actually, I do have to say and give Victor Wooten full credit for that. The idea to do a week or a camp or a workshop, all ages, came from Victor Wooten camps, because I really felt that I did I went to Wooten Woods 5 times for 3 camps, and jam weekend, and also a building weekend where the people come from all over the country and the world to help him building a new bunkhouse or stuff like that. It was great. And when it comes to learning, that's what I really felt at Victor's camps. There's no age. You cannot put a number to learning. You know, what I felt when we were in the barn and sitting all together, you know, you had young people and older people, but we were all one. And there was this tremendous amount of energy, which was really inspiring. And I really experienced that, you know what, when it comes to learning is a certain focus, it's an intention. And I don't think you can put an age to it. And you learn faster. The more, as I said in my opening talk, I noticed in myself, the more I can focus on a certain subject and forget about everything else going on, the faster I learn, you know. And that idea really came from Victor Wooten. And I know. And then, of course, there were like, how many bass players? 50?
Yeah, that was 60 people, I think, total as for campers.
How was your final performance? Go ahead.
Oh, the final performance at
Wooten Woods. What did you do? I forgot. Yeah. You played with the group too, huh?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Who was the guy from the Cosby Show played with us? Remember, he was one of the guests. He was a good bass player. He was the Bill Cosby's son in the Cosby Show.
Oh.
And he
Theo?
The drummer? Huh?
No, Theo. He was a bass player. He was a very good bass player. And I was in his group. And gosh, he had a gal from Buffalo. And I was.
Were you nervous?
No, I wasn't nervous.
You wasn't nervous?
Not
but
really.
I know I was nervous. You have like Victor Wooten on stage and Steve Bailey on stage with all these amazing musicians. I was like, you know, I mean, I knew. I call him. I was with Jack. You know, call him my groove brother. You know, we were both like just, you know, we played this thing on the groove in G. I don't know what it was.
I remember Jack. I think.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I was a little nervous. I mean, you had Victor Wooten on stage, you know, like, I mean, Victor's cool. And, you know, and it was one of those instances where you had classes, but the Wooten workshops are a little different also, because there's a lot of, they call them icebreakers. There's a lot of events where you just do things together, nature stuff and everything. But I like the idea of all ages. I think it's really, it's hard sometimes with people who, I do have to tell you, you know, sometimes with people who are, you know, progressing in their life and maybe doing something else, you know, they're very attached to their number, you know, and I always bring up my mother. My mother is 91, you know, and in every other phone call, oh, well, you know, I'm 91. I call her Chris by her name. Her name is Krista. I said, Chris, it's just a number. And then in the meantime, she just signed up for another, you know, I was born in Sweden. We lived in Sweden for an X amount of years. She just signed up for another Swedish class because she wants to brush up your Swedish skills. So I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. You know, she's 91 and she wants to learn Swedish. So I think I got that from my mother. You know, she has this curiosity, and I just have to remind her every now and then that just forget about your age, you know. But sometimes it's hard for people because in their mind, the number is so much in the way of learning. And that's really what we're trying to break down at SITKA Jazz Week. We're really trying to break that down. Forget about it. Jump in there. Make as many mistakes as you can. Really, the more mistakes you make, the more blunders you make, it's really welcome. And then you have to, on the same day, a chance to do it all over again. And maybe 10 times as good, you know. There will be an audience. There's a built-in audience. It's in the peak of the season. We have tourists from all over the, you know, really from all the world in different venues. Chazz and Rob, last year you played at the Bayview Pub, which is naturally a very well-visited place in town. There's always somewhat a built-in audience. Some days more, some days less. But you have played in front of a full house a few times, which I'm really happy about. And it's a great place, and we have a new location, the Highliner Coffee Place, which naturally also has a big crowd. So there's people, they just enjoy live music. They don't specifically come to hear a certain person. They just come, oh, there's live music, great, awesome. You know, they're just there for the experience and have a good time. Yeah, and then Chazz, I know if you want to add to it, go ahead. And other than that, I can keep it up to. You introduced me to Rob Cohen. I kind of knew of Rob a little bit, but what happened is the keyboard player from the Austin Hayes Trio and the Gateway Trio, Kim Martinson, right? Is this Kim? What's his last name? Anyway,
he had health concerns and had to take a break. So.
Yeah. Anyway, so he had to take a break. And I was really looking for someone who, you know, so about Jazz Week, you have to know we all kind of live for 1 week in a building. We have breakfast together, we have lunch together. The participants, they kind of mingle with the musicians. We talked a lot about yesterday with Bernard Pradis, that there's really the atmosphere of family and really getting to know each other. And you know, I bring up a story which I brought up the last couple of Zoom calls, and Rob heard the story before. I went to an IAGE years ago. There was Horace Silver with Randy Brecker, and Randy Brecker, a great trumpet player, he made this comment like, well, you know, these days everyone talks about networking, you know, and you got to do this and your website. And he's like, back in the day, we just hung out. We called it hanging out, you know. So there's this element of hanging out where I also talked about the element of osmosis, where you just learn from a musician by just being with a musician. So we're staying in this beautiful building called Stevenson Hall. We are hosted by the SITKA Music Festival, and we're just hanging out. So Chazz, when I asked you, I was kind of, I understood that Kim wanted to, you know, wasn't able to come back, and I was trying not only to look for a good player, but I was looking for someone who would fit the vibe, you know, where we can hang out and being social. There's just more than, John Damberg was here, who's a collaborator from the Alaska Jazz Workshop. He had done some camps last year. I'm not going to mention names, but he said one camp, they couldn't even get close to the teachers. They did their thing and the teacher disappeared and the students were all hanging out with each other. Okay, that's cool. Can be a great camp, you know, but Jazz Week is different. So we were also looking for someone who kind of wanted to hang out with us. So anyway, you recommended Rob Cohen. And then early last year, I was in Juneau and I had coffee with Rob. And one of the things I always say, which really, in my mind, I will never forget, you know, because you knew one of my mentors I was with for 18 years and also played in the big band, and his funk band was Mike Longo. So when I brought up Mike's name on the phone call, yeah, I know Mike Longo. I have his voice leading book, you know, and I'm like, well, you know, okay, Rob, you want to come to SITKA Jazz Week?
Yeah.
So there we are. But Chazz, thanks for the recommendation. And here's Rob Cohen. You also, it was for you the first year last year, and you were filling in more or less. Also, Sergio, who was on there yesterday. So basically, the Gateway Trio became the Chazz Gist Trio with Sergio Bellotti on drums and with Rob Cohen on the piano. So here you have the floor, Rob. Go ahead. Great to have you being part of Jazz Week. Thank you so much for spending your time and energy with us.
Oh, thank you. I was thrilled to get the call. It saddened me that Austin was not feeling well to the point where he had to, remove himself from.
And it was Kim, by the way. Yeah, Austin. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kim.
It's all right. Yeah.
From participating. But with that in mind, I was very happy and grateful to get your call. I I've been in Juneau for 35 years doing music in so many different forms, jazz and trio format, larger format. We recorded for radio, we recorded for TV. I just started to go up to Anchorage to the Spinard Jazz Fest
Oh, wow.
for a few years in a row, and so I'd met Ingvild Vatngutu, who runs that festival, and she'd come down to Juneau. We did something for TV, went back up. So sometimes in Alaska, it's hard to get up the momentum to make those connections between people in communities hundreds or close to 1,000 miles away. So, but once that's established, it makes things a lot easier. And so I felt great about finally having gotten some solid connections in Anchorage, and was hoping that my own area of the state, Southeast, would be something where I could, generally expand my.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
Yeah.
just to add that quick. Number one, you played together in the Carla Bley tribute band together. I think that's you start working together. And number two, when I had coffee with you, Rob, in the spring last year, you said you never played in SITKA, so that's really interesting. There's a dynamic in Southeast Alaska, and when I started collaborating with John Denberg in 2024, he also told me he never played in Ketchikan or SITKA, and he had barely any connections in Juneau, although he knew other musicians in Juneau. But his expertise is really the Anchorage, Homer, Kenai Peninsula area, and he has built himself, and he runs the Alaska Jazz Workshop for 30 years. So I was kind of surprised a little bit, because it's only 20-minute plane ride, couple of hours with the ferry right away, and it seems like, at some point it's changing. Number one, I think that is great. But I was surprised that Rob, that you said you never played in SITKA before. That was really interesting. And I think also, Chazz, when you came with a Gateway Trio, I think, and then you made the connection to the Mean Queen with one of the owners and Patrick and everything, which is a big Jazz Week supporter, and Mary. I also wanted to shout out to Tony at the Bayview Pub and Renee at the Beak, Sherry and Justin at the Highliner, and there's so many, and John and Haley for the food court and everything. There's so many help we have to make SITKA Jazz Week happening. But it's really, I guess, I'm not saying I want to take the credit for that, but I do remember when you came to SITKA in 2023, I remember you saying, I want to meet I want to talk to the Mean Queen guy. And you did, and now you just like a phone call away from setting something up and having gigs there. So it's kind of working. And coming back to you, Rob, so I was kind of surprised that you never played in SITKA before. So how did you feel in SITKA performing? How was your first year?
You had been very, you explained in great detail, like you're doing now for the people out there who are curious about what happens at SITKA Jazz Week, and the methods that we employ and how the magic happens and the kind of scheduling we have. You had told me all about that. And of course, it sounded good over the phone, but once I came down and actually experienced living and working and teaching and playing through that process, it was only then that it really hit home how effective, wonderfully effective this approach to learning, taking a week and structuring a jazz education program, how wonderfully effective that was. It's interesting, right at the beginning of this meeting, you were talking about, the dangers, the fears that musicians have, the precipice you're walking upon when you learn something in the morning and are challenged to play it in the afternoon. That can cause a little bit of stress, cause a little bit of fear, cause a little bit of worry. But, the same kind of stress, fear, and worry exists in other kinds of programs where you start learning on Monday, and then 2 weeks later on a Saturday is the all or nothing concert. So there's really stress and nerves and a little bit of fear to overcome both of them. But after the first couple of days, being at SITKA Jazz Week last year, it was clear to me that the kind of stress, also the kind of excitement, and yes, it's unknown, but there's a lot of excitement to the unknown, as well as fear of the unknown. But just a chance to take every day, go out there and play, and realize that it's a different experience each time. You may go out there, a student may go out there and think, I didn't learn this song. I'm gonna blow it. I'll have to fake my way through it. They come back and tell us they remembered every note.
Yeah.
Someone who didn't think they knew how to solo, all of a sudden they catch the wind, and they blow a solo that they're never going to forget. Just
That's great.
that energy is always there, but the students get a chance to have a reality check every day when they go to SITKA Jazz Week. Learn. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to have festivals or educational programs where you're rehearsing more difficult pieces for a single concert or two later, but for students at any level, any age, just a chance, get your feet wet, move your fingers, go out there, look at a crowd, stand in front of them, play for them, and realize they're on your side. Every crowd I've seen in SITKA, places, but especially at Jazz, they're there to support. They're there to listen. They want to be entertained, but they're there. They see students up there. They're behind them 100%. It's an incredibly supportive environment, and the wind is every student. The wind was at their back. They had support, people cheering them on, and that can go a long way.
Yeah. But one of the ideas, you can come a little closer to the microphone, Rob. I mean, I heard everything, but every now and then there was like one or two little drops out. One of the things when I teach, and when I create a surrounding, like I do think about what would have helped me, what would have I liked as a student, and that's how I teach too, and so part of the idea with the Jazz Week was, it's just like, when I started out, I just didn't perform enough. I was like, I remember I don't know about you guys, but I remember clearly when one of my first live gigs, I had this fusion band in the Netherlands, and man, I memorized everything note for note. I even memorized my solos and everything. And I remember I played one wrong note. I had this whole like a electric current going through your body. It's like, oh my God, and I couldn't sleep, and it would bother me for days that I played this one note wrong. I'm like, and why? And then, I'm like, why is it? And then, years later, you realize you're probably the only one, I mean, next to your bandmates who heard it, a lot of times by the time the audience hears something, because music is not going in a vertical way. It moves in a horizontal way. It's like if you're at a train station and you hear music that goes by like this, but a lot of times musicians are not all of them, but I guess I'm one of the musicians who were stuck in the vertical way. It's like, oh my God, the thing. And then a famous Miles Davis quote, he said, well, there are no wrong notes. You're only half step away from the right note. So then there comes this whole element. One day I was in the elevator with Stanley Turrentine, and when he was alive, I was at the IAGE in Atlanta, and I said, man, I love your playing, and it's great. He's like, I'm just doing my best, And then out of the blue, he's told me, the difference between an experienced player and a beginner. I said, no, it's like, you know how to hide your mistakes better.
Yeah.
It's like everyone has a different handle of things. The most important thing is that we have fun. And I think what you were describing, and Chazz too, that we have a lot of fun together. We're really embracing this, not perfect playing situation, and I don't know, I said maybe I'm repeating myself, but lately on Instagram, Bruce Lee is popping up. He was a great martial arts person, and in the 70s, and all his quotes are short, and he said, one was, he's like, well, people a lot of time has fear, but if you look fear straight in the eyes, fear disappears. And the other thing he said is, you know, everyone looks for a comfort in their life, but he said, you don't want to pray for comfort, you want to pray for discomfort, because it makes you grow the fastest, you know. So I'm like, you know, there's a lot of things, you know. I mean, over life, when things didn't work out in my life, I just kept going and figured out another way, you know. In a way, subconsciously, personally, I think, I'm not saying I was doing that, but I figured something which worked out for me, so I would keep going, you know. A big deal for me was always asking advice. We had Ron Carter did show up on the call earlier today with Heather Gluth and her students at Mount Edgecombe High School, because he was our big sponsor for last year, and they never had the personal chance to meet him. And so that was a and he's one of my mentors. So I always in life, naturally, I had gravitated to jazz musicians who were way more experienced than I was, and I always asked their advice. Anyway, but yeah, that's great. I mean, it's really, you guys make a big difference. Rob, you were working a lot at the Highliner with a lot of the, I know, the younger participants, I think they like coffee. They were going to the Highliner quite a bit, you know. But anyway, Rob was hanging out with the students there quite a bit at the Highliner place, and both of you, I mean, there's some beautiful pictures our friend Chris Drucker took where the students are on stage intermingling, and it's just amazing experience. And Heather also is like Chazz, like you, she's part from year number 1, and for her, Jazz Week, since her students come, and many of them have a scholarship when they come, but it made a really big difference also in their classroom, you know, for Jazz Week. Also, it's right at the beginning of the school year, and she had said that, you know, the students, her participants or students who went to Jazz Week, they are like on such a high energy level. When they come then to the class, they're picking up everyone around them, which is really beautiful. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Anything else? I mean, the hang. How you like the hang in the kitchen?
Yeah, kitchen hang is great.
Sound amazing.
Yeah.
Next to Bernard Purdie and having him tell any story from Bernard's Rolodex is a gem. So you never know. You never knew which. You couldn't, as fiction, no one would believe it, but the stories he had to tell, the way the opportunities just presented themselves to him and the choices he made, it doesn't happen that way anymore. Sort of like the way Ann Phillips described how she moved up step by step through the music industry, from the Brill Building to, you know, the various projects that she did. It's they have stories from another time which are still relevant, even though the form in which things happen has changed externally today. There are tales of luck and skill and, you know, working with musicians, and everything from tales of triumph to very useful cautionary tales about warning signs in the industry, who to work with, who not to work with. But the story was just, and why. Every one of Bernard's stories and Ann's stories, and even, you know, Chris, the photographer, where he's been, he must know of every jazz. It seemed like he knew about every jazz album ever released. His knowledge was orthopedic, and he could talk any subject jazz related for hours at a time. And
yeah, for the ones who listen to us for the first time, Chris Drucker, great jazz photographer, lives here on the East Coast. Basically lives in New Jersey on the other side of Hudson River, and he is a jazz freak. I mean, he knows all about the records ever recorded. He knows the different record labels who recorded for them and when and what. And what people don't know, he's also an amazing graphic designer. He really has done close to 3,000 record covers and CD covers. So he's really, you know, if you don't know that, you know, you might ask him if you ever need help with the cover. He will be able to, and he's fast. He's really quick putting a cover together, and just an amazing guy to have around. Taking, there are literally hundreds of pictures posted on our SITKA Jazz Week Facebook site. You can go. They're really going by the day, starting on the Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every day between 60 to 80 pictures posted. Amazing pictures to get you an idea of what the Jazz Week is all about. I do have to say, for the record, the Jazz Week is $750 for the week, including breakfast and lunch. So that's not a huge amount of money. And participants have to find, they have to book their own airfare. And also, we have hotel discount codes for you. For the peak of the season, we are partnering up with the SITKA Hotel and the Brownhoff Lodge, basically close to a 50% discount. And we recommend that you book your rooms before March 1st. So all that information, you can reach out to us at sitkajazweek.org or sitkajazz.org, or send us an email at sitkajazweek@gmail.com. And also there's an Alaska phone number, 907-623-7239. You find all of this on our website to get in touch with us. But it's John Danberg last week, he compared pricing. Again, he went to 3 camps as a participant last year. And a lot of the camps were, one of them was about $3,000, everything, flights not included. And another one, I think Pond Townsend, was $2,400, $2,200, flights not included. So, I think in terms of what you get for your money and the experience, I think I thought about it a lot, how to make it, attractive for a participant to sign up. I think we probably could go up $100 or something, but we won't do it for this year, but it's $750 for the week, and participants have to take care of their own travel and also have to book the hotel. Just reach out to us and we can help you set it all up. We actually, if I'm correct, which is great, we already have 2, maybe 3 participants, which is great. Traditionally, for the last 3 years, people have signed up a little later in the year. And now the reason we have all these Zoom calls is to get the message out early so people have time to book their airfare. Right now, I think still from the East Coast to come to Sitka, Alaska, round trip, you get a round trip for $600 some, definitely under $700, which is great, I think a flight from, what are you paying a round trip from Juneau or Ketchikan to Seattle? That's like $300 some, I guess. So
yeah, at least.
Yeah, maybe 400 something.
Yeah.
Former, yeah.
It's up there, Cool. Any words of wisdom? Any final, anything you think we should address or you want to point out? I do have to say, we talked about it off camera, so to speak, but there will be a couple of surprises this year, Jazz Week. We'll have a new CD coming out with people who work together at Jazz Week, and we're finishing up that right now. And then we have one of the, are you, Chazz is going to come with, I won't say who, but with a band which is gaining a lot of momentum in the state of Alaska for sure. And have you guys traveled out of the state of Alaska yet?
I haven't traveled out of the state yet. We've been trying to lock down the home turf.
Yeah. And you are. So we have a special surprise for you. So Chazz is, closing out the Jazz Week with a big bang with one of his amazing bands he's working with. So there's a lot happening. I think I'm really excited for this year. We try to do things a little different. We are really happy that Bernard Purdie is back with his wife Celia, and he really stressed yesterday on the call how happy he is to be part of the Jazz Week. So he is one of the most recorded drummers in music history. He recently just has gotten the Living Legend Award from an organization, Los Angeles, called the World Entertainment Awards Association. So we're really excited to have him, and everyone else. We have Cleve Guyton, one of my bandmates from the Lionel Hampton Big Band. He's playing the alto saxophone. We have Matt King, who also comes to Ketchikan quite a lot. Great keyboard player living in New Jersey, and played with a lot of the who's who in jazz and the fusion world. We have we had Ann Phillips as a special guest, Heather Gluth, who is teaching in SITKA Alaska, but phenomenal, really great vocalist. She's part of it. And Sergio Bellotti, a great drummer, close friend to Bernard Purdie, and also a professor at Berklee College of Music, and his wife, Terry Cote, also a drummer. Also, she's originally from California. She's part of Jazz Week. And then Chazz Gist and Rob Cohen, you're a big asset and great to really, I think, we have all the great musicians we can get for Jazz Week. It's really cool. I'm very happy. And so what's different last year, I mean, for the ones who have not, last year we also started including some local musicians, not so much in the educational aspect, but we added another stage to, which was the food court this last year, where we had some local musicians perform, and who were at least two of them, I know two of them for sure, were really excited about Jazz Week and really made sure that they had a jazz repertoire to present. So that was really great that Jazz Week, when we were there for the week, we were really able to inspire the local musicians to do more jazz. I do have to say, for the record too, it's very sad that the SITKA Jazz Festival is no more since 3 years. It discontinued. Yeah. However, it found a new home in Juneau, and I'm happy for jazz music to continue in Juneau, but it's a big loss for SITKA for sure at that time of the year. So I think Jazz Week started a year before the Jazz Festival had its last year in SITKA. So we're totally unrelated, but I'm very happy and I'm very thankful that we are keeping jazz in SITKA, at least if it's just for a week, but we have local, supporters and people who love jazz. They have a chance to check out jazz in SITKA for a week. So that's a big one. Mm-hmm. Cool. Anything else? I know I've been quite doing some talking, but anything you want to add? Go ahead.
No, just that it sounds like a pretty good value camp. I didn't know how much people were charging for jazz camps these days. So
it came up. Remember, what was it back when we went to Victor's camp? I thought it was $1,000, right?
It was about that.
It was about that. So that was for the housing and included the food.
Yeah.
And that was 2014. So that was hallelujah. That was 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. And then we had to pay for the travel.
Sure.
And so so still I think we are pretty much in a really good price range there. I mean, there's some local camps in SITKA which have gone up quite a bit pricing too. So I think our price point is we really doing really well, and we have a great participation. And I think our max would be 30 some. If we had if we are at that, 1 year we got close to that, so we're around that. But more is always better. But the artistic director from the SITKA Music Festival, Zul Bailey, he said, well, it's a good problem to have if we have more signups than you can handle. So you have to figure out ways to make it work. So anyway, so I'm looking forward to this year. So thanks again for having Juneau represented with Rob Cohen. Anyone you think would benefit from SITKA Jazz Week? And then Chazz, you too, and Ketchikan. What do you think? What's our and you are a big mentor of Sarah, our bass player friend. So where is she making her home now? She is Sarah is a young bass player from Ketchikan. I gave her a few lessons, but Chazz is really her mentor, taught her for many years, but a phenomenal young lady, up and coming, playing upright bass. So yeah.
She'll be home in Ketchikan. We're gonna be both the house bass players for the burlesque show. Oh,
that's right. That's what you said.
Yeah. So she'll be, and I travel a lot on weekends, and so she'll be taking my various gigs when I'm out of town. But then she's looking to be moving to Portland probably. Oh
wow, great, good for her. Oh, that's fantastic. Great.
Yeah.
Cool. And Rob, what do you have coming up? Anything?
Coming up? Good question. Well, we just finished Jazz Fest.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I heard Alex Sergio, the executive director and interim director for Juneau Jazz, is was sitting in with you. He was so happy.
We had a jam session to the end, and I put together what rose. We started the gig with a trio and a quartet, but it became an 8-9-piece band by the end with arrangements. One of them got captured on video because Crystal Saloon's video. Well, we need to tweak that a little bit, but I'm going to be posting that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Bands for the Juneau Community Band's rendition of Rhapsody in Blue with a new arrangement that brings back a lot of the original bands Gershwin had intended.
Great.
So I'm that quite a bit, and then get a couple of local concerts coming up, which will appear on Facebook. I can just advise everyone, find Christian on Facebook. You'll get the inside scoop on a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, you can find us sitkajazzweek.org, sitkajazzweek@gmail.com. We have one more Zoom call coming up on Saturday for mostly vocalists, but you're welcome to join. And with Heather, and you can find all our Zoom calls on our SITKA Jazz Week YouTube channel. So everything will be posted. So thanks again, guys. Looking forward to have you back this year. It's going to be great. Really excited. And thanks for taking time out to talk. That sounds great. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Christian.
Yeah. Bye-bye.